Welcome to the Afro Anime Initiative, where we champion diversity and being black in the medium we love, from anime to any word that begins with the letter Z. Welcome and join the initiative. Paulina is with me today, and today we're going to be talking about Full Metal Alchemist. But
None.
first, Paulina, how many times have you seen Avengers Infinity War this week? Excellent. Get to
Okay.
the real story. Full
Okay,
Metal
so for
Alchemist.
those of you familiar, you already know what the story of Fullmetal Alchemist. The manga has been out since 2003, actually, or 2002 when it debuted. 2003. And but what? What? Stop it.
You know what? I can't do this,
What?
Paulina. I'm so sorry. Let's just be
Okay.
honest with our viewers and our listeners. To earn your stripes in the anime podcasting game, you have to delve deep into the debate Full Metal Alchemist versus Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Jesus.
And we're not going to do that because we like them both and we like the manga and we don't care about people that want to fight over stuff. We're just going to talk about what we enjoy, and we enjoyed them both. There are some differences and we'll talk about that. But this debate about which one was better, hey, one was great for when
I
it
mean, the
came
thing is,
out
I don't know
and
why
the other
people
one was
don't
great
focus
for
just
when
on
it
the
came
mythos of
out.
Fullmetal
Why
Alchemist.
you
It's a
can't
huge
just love them
world.
both?
Huge. There's so much that revolves around it. So I don't know why people are focusing on which one is better.
Yes.
Look, the first
Yes.
one came out when it
So
came out with
much.
the tropes it had, with the story it had. It wasn't the greatest, but it did the best it could. It brought about a generation of FMA fans, and and it's
Yes. Anime fans.
yeah, it's pretty intense. Like, the thing is, for those who have followed the 2003 one, it it deviated away from the manga. Like, the only reason why it moved the direction it did was because at the same time the manga was out and it was still young. So it was catching up very, very quickly, and they decided to go in a different route. One, if you look back, kind of didn't really make sense, but it did at the same time. It felt really convoluted. However, it still did the best it could because, it was a whole story that they had to tell. It still followed the manga on and off, back and forth, but, there were moments where it just completely took a left turn.
And let's be honest, we still have that situation with anime today following popular manga. So to say one is better than the other one without putting into context the situation they were in, to me, it's a debate and an argument that doesn't need to be exist because you can enjoy all forms of it from the manga to the anime. Just like I'm a comic book guy, I enjoy the comic books. I've watched all the cartoons. So when people jump
Hmm.
on about the movies, I'm like, that's cool. You like the movies. Hey, there's this thing called a comic book store. Come with me. Enjoy it all. Just enjoy it all. And especially with something like Full Metal Alchemist, because like Paulina said, this
Hmm.
huge, rich story, and it basically boils down to two brothers. That's it. The Bible starts off like that. It's just a beautiful story. You enjoy whatever iteration of the story you want to enjoy. You don't have to like one over the other one. If you just like it, you like it. But let's break it down. It's a story of a thing called alchemy, which is basically, let's be honest, it's magic. They put a science
Pretty
behind
much.
it, but people don't forget that science is just magic that we understand. It's all right, exactly. So again, another old story trope from like the beginning of storytelling, and it's about two brothers who commit what's known as a very sin in the art of alchemy, and it sets them off on this very long journey of discovery, of acknowledgement, of love, of sacrifice, and you get into again these tropes which some are well established in anime but some are also broken, and with Full Metal Alchemist you get to understand what can be done with storytelling in this medium. And just for reference, we're going to say FMA for the original 2003 series, and we're going to say Brotherhood for
My first
Brotherhood as a
point,
reference. So, Paulina,
I'm
what
not
is your
even sure
first
where to
point?
start, though. That's the thing. But well, let's get into the understanding of the story first of all. why it's so compelling and why it's able to focus on the two brothers, Edward Elric and Alphonse Elric. Now, we start off with these two, they're kids, they're with their mother, doing the best she can to raise them. Their father walked out on them when they were little, real little, and one day she gets sick and she passes away. Now, these two were already in the midst of learning alchemy because, they were incredibly smart for their age. They were all about books and just learning alchemy and the fascination. So they learn about so many things in books. To them, most of them are theories. Like they come across terms about like homunculus. What's that? That's just a theory. Little do they know. And they come across the taboo, which is human transmutation, because the most important law of alchemy is the equivalent exchange. If you want to earn something, you have to give something back of equal value. Now, the reason why human transmutation is so forbidden is you're literally trying to bring back the dead, which is an absolute no. Like you're trying to raise a zombie or something, but it's like, no, you can't do it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Yes.
Once they're gone, they are
Yes.
gone. If you try to do this, you will suffer the consequences for it. And it's really, really cool how it it differs between the two, between the first anime and the second anime. Well, the first anime with the manga, because with the seven deadly sins, now like I'm really getting into this, like there's so much that's coming back to me. What I remember learning is that with what Edward and Alphonse did, they tried to bring back their mom. Edward lost his leg and Alphonse's entire body. Now, when they try to do the transmutation, they think, because they're so naive doing it,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, we just gotta find the materials that makes up the human body, and then that's it. We'll bring mom back. And it's like, no, little children, it is not that simple. But of course, right,
Right, but they think it's a formula. Like I said, it's a science. It's science. It's a, like I said,
exactly.
science is the
And
magic we
unfortunately, that
understand.
is
So for
not
them,
how the
it's like,
world
hey, if we
works.
figure out the
Again, science
formula,
is
we can
only to bring
perform
us
anything.
understanding over something that was previously unknown. And even so, even if we have science, sometimes certain things that are unknown remain unknown. So, with them trying to bring back their mother, like I said, Alphonse loses his body and Edward loses his leg.
Yes.
He When that happens, he enters this strange realm, like of all white with this giant doors with the tree of life in front of him. And he interacts with this weird shadow being. And he's like, "Who are you?" And the shadow being's like, "Well, thank you for asking. I I am everything. I am nothing. I am here, I am not here. I am me, I am the universe, I am you." And it's like you don't understand at first when he goes through this, because you're looking at it like, what is this? Where is he? So, this the shadowy creature's like, well, it's humanoid actually. It's so creepy. And it's like, well, you're here for a reason, aren't you? And he's like, and Edward's like, well, yeah, like it's behind these doors, right? And he's like, of course. He's like, yeah, let me have it. And he's like, there's a price for you to pay. And Edward's like, what? He realizes that like it's like this like my heart hurts for these kids because they so badly want their mother back, but they don't realize when they do this, they pretty much ruin their lives trying to bring their mother back. They're lucky to come back alive as they did with Edward's quick thinking, but if it
Yes.
wasn't for them to step in and go, "Oh, let's do this thing and bring back our mom," then it wouldn't have happened. Although Edward says that he and Alphonse would have never done it if their father didn't walk out on them. But they find out later why he does it, though.
And and that again goes back to the differences between FMA and Brotherhood. With Brotherhood, they kind of, come in with the, if you're watching Brotherhood, that means you either watched the FMA or you've read the manga. But the establishment of these rules in the first episode and how they set up the relationship between everybody is done very well and quickly. Now in FMA, there's a little bit more, like you get more time with the mom instead of in Brotherhood where you get it more in flashbacks. as the seasons progress. In FMA is more front loaded. There's a lot more recollection with the mom and her character than you do get with Brotherhood. But it doesn't detach from you feeling how much they need her, how much they love her, and the absence of her not being around for
Mm-hmm.
them at such a young age. That was one of the big first differences I picked up between the two series. It was the first of all the assumption that I've watched the other things before, but
Mm-hmm.
also the usage of time. Like an anime trope from that
Right.
we still have today. So let's not get too feisty about it. Is filler with Brotherhood? No filler. Everything straight to the point. Dialogue is on point, but again, they've had more time with Brotherhood to sit with the manga and a finished manga than
Mm-hmm.
FMA did. But what FMA had, again, you go back and watch it, that dialogue is still on point.
Right.
You
But
still
it
get the
still,
story. It just
sticks
might
to
be
the
a little bit
point. It's
longer
still
and
pretty
maybe a
much
couple extra
anime. So
hours, and
you
there's
already
nothing
read the
wrong with
manga,
that.
and again, the differences between the the first series and the second series. Now, again, like with the similarities, Edward comes back. He loses literally an arm and a leg to get his brother back, and I'm like, that's whoa. And again, you have
Hmm.
Roy Mustang coming to recruit
Yes.
them. He sees what happened. Oh, pardon me. Roy Mustang is a colonel.
Who's Roy
I believe he
Mustang?
gets promoted later to colonel, but he's a state alchemist with the title Flame, the Flame Alchemist, because he can manipulate flame using alchemy with a special pair of gloves with the symbol on it. Well, a symbol for flame alchemy. So just a quick note about him, he's a very ambitious man. Very ambitious. He wants to be Führer one day. He wants to take over and be a leader, ruler of a nation and change the rules, change its ways. Because he's literally like, I don't like what's going on. I don't like how this is happening. I'm going to go to the top. And he's very smart about it too because he surrounds himself with a very trustworthy team. He loses one member, but it motivates him more. So,
Yeah, this anime dwells deep into, like I said, when you talk about something like alchemy, and again, it's in the title, Full Metal Alchemist. You think it's going to be magic sword. No, this is a
genocide.
story about again human things, politics, war, friendship, loyalty. Gen. It is a human show, and both anime express it well, and the manga does it greatly. But both anime express that. Again, it's those things that it doesn't matter which one you watch, you're going to get the elements of the story across, which the writer she wanted to express so well in the manga. All those who love her work wanted to express that as well in the anime. They wanted to make sure all those story points are hit,
Exactly.
and you
And a
get
lot of
that
the
through
characters
characters
they
such
do
as Colonel
have
Mustang
spot
in
on. There's
both
certain like
FMA
minute
and
differences with
Brotherhood.
some minor characters though. Again, with Fullmetal Alchemist in 2003, a lot of minor characters stay alive longer, are used more compared to Brotherhood because the manga has is a long story and so many characters that the Elric brothers interact with, and some of these characters have so
Hmm.
much to do with what they're looking for, and others not so much, but still help them on their way, still help them, teaches them so much, because you have to remember they're still kids, they're children, they're under the age of
Yes.
18, they're traveling.
Yes.
Right. Well, when the show
Hmm.
starts 15 and 14, when it
They're
finishes like
15 and 14.
15 and 16, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't Alphonse 2 years younger than Edward, or 1 year? Okay, okay.
Yes.
And the the the
No,
fun
1 year.
interesting like difference with voice actors though, a majority of the voice actors have reprised their roles, except for Alphonse because the previous Alphonse is now all grown up. Yeah. Oh yeah. The actually Vic Mignogna is the voice of Edward Elric, and in an interview
He
he was
grew up.
asked like, "Oh,
Yeah.
is Aaron Dismuke is the name of the voice actor for the previous Alphonse?" And he was asked like, "Oh, is Aaron gonna come back?" And he's like, "No, no, he hit puberty a little too hard." So, can I spoil it?
And just for
Yeah.
anybody that's
So
curious,
he
but he
does
does come back
reprise
not in the way
a
you
well,
expected.
he not really reprise, but he does come back as a young
Yeah, go ahead.
Hohenheim. So exactly. So in a way, he still came back into the show. So some of the
The
other voice
father of
actors,
the
even though
boys.
like I think maybe by time constraints were unable to, but still managed
Hmm.
to sneak their voices in for side characters. So it's like a family reunion almost.
Yes. And again, another thing that I don't know why there's debate: the voice cast for both
Oh, they are. They
the
still like
Japanese
they. I
and
think
English
though
translation
the
are
second time around for
both
Brotherhood, the emotion is a
stellar.
lot better because they understand their characters so much better now.
I think, but that also goes to another point I had
Right.
about both shows. It's just there's a difference between
Yeah.
melodramatic and dramatic. With FMA, it's melodramatic. It's everything is oh my god. But with Brotherhood, it's just dramatic. It's like oh my god, this happened, and you can see the devastation because they know where they're going. Because again, they
Mm-hmm.
have both the manga and FMA from 2003 to go out, so they don't have to overdo it. They can literally give you
Yep.
subtlety, but it doesn't detract from the story in either one because the
They really
melodrama
do.
works
And
in
there's also
FMA
differences, like I
and the
said, for
subtle
certain
dramatic
characters
shifts
and certain
really
episodes,
work in
certain things that
Brotherhood.
happen, just little things but very noticeable, such as when Alphonse and Edward go to Lior. Now, in the 2003 version, that's
Hmm.
the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, the very first episode. They're traveling through the desert, heading to Lior, and they come across like a whole bunch of people
Hmm.
who are like, yeah, Father Cornello is
Hmm.
amazing. He's a miracle worker. He's like a messiah directly from God, and this, that, and the other. And Ed and Al are like, what? Exactly. Very quickly. And
Yeah,
the
FMA
fun thing
quickly
about it
sets
is
up the
that they
first villain.
perform the same
Very.
type of quote unquote miracles when Alphonse accidentally breaks a radio, and they're like, "Whoa, that's a miracle!" And he's like, "No, it's basic science. It's alchemy." And they're like, "Alchemy? What's that?" But that's
It's alchemy. It's
go.
alchemy. West,
Hmm.
yes, and it's something
Yeah.
that the
Oh
first
yeah.
one took a couple
That's the
episodes to
thing.
get through.
And the first
In
episode for the
Brotherhood, that was
2003
just one
version
scene. Like, we
expands on
got
it for
it.
about 2 episodes because they have Rose, who is just a faithful follower because she truly believes that Father Cornello performs all these miracles. He can bring the dead back to life. He can bring the love of her life back to life. And what's so like I like the 2003 version of that episode
Yes.
of that story because it's so creepy because it actually shows you how corrupt Father Cornello is with his power, how he tricks Rose into thinking that he really did bring him back. He brings her to this room and he shows like this figure behind a curtain, like wheezing out her name. She's like, "Oh my god, you did bring him back." And later on it's revealed that it's just this giant bird that was mutated and taught to repeat her name over and over again. And
Hmm.
they didn't do that in Brotherhood.
And And that's what I liked about Brotherhood. They cut out a lot of stuff, but not releasing that tension and showing the father's power and showing
Hmm.
the Eric brothers like real quick, like, nah, fam. And it just gets you into the story for me, just a little bit better than FMA did. And Brotherhood is like, no, this is
Hmm.
wrong. We're gonna fix this. And in FMA, they tease it out a little bit more because again, time constraints and what they
Right.
were working with,
I pretty much
and
went
it's
straight
like
to the
it
point.
does have the same
Which
effect,
a
but
part
for
of
me, like
me
I said,
when I
Brotherhood was
saw
just a better
the
pacing.
Brotherhood version, I mean I already knew what happened, what was going on, and I guess for me, I enjoy a bit of the melodramatic. Like for me, it gives a little bit of that taste and um, of what makes it so enjoyable to watch. And but for the 2003 version, again, you learn you put it how should I put this? Like you put together the pieces. If you saw it over again, like I watched it I was religiously following FMA. So there's a lot I was able to put together. So watching again and the 2003 version and Brotherhood, and just being reminded of what I went through the entire manga, it's like I put so much together and it makes so much sense. Like you already know what's going to happen, and it's just all the more mind blowing because you realize that as the brothers travel, after they expose Father Cornello, riots start to happen, and then that's when you also first meet the homunculus or homunculi.
See, I think that's what I like. I like a little bit about Brotherhood, and again, it's just differences in taste. What I like more about Brotherhood is you get a lot of that, but not spelled out, and it's more subtle drama. It's quiet tension. It's more like we got to be careful what we do about because what
But
might
then when
happen instead of being overtly, oh no, please
hmm
stop. But it works in both scenarios for the show. And then even when you introduce like some of the
hmm
background characters, you know they might be
right,
bad. They say them weird like villain quotes that you know you get, but you just don't know why they're bad. And it comes to like I said, that subtlety
it
for me
was.
was
But I
a
mean,
little better in
for
Brotherhood,
both,
but
like in the
in
Lior
FMA,
arc,
the
they were
overtness
both
of it
kind
was
of
also kind of fun too.
subtle because like the parallels I saw was that they were both they both introduced the homunculus the same way. You first see Lust looking over, you know, talking to Envy and Gluttony about what's going on. They got to keep things. Well, in the 2003, they got to keep things under control, quote unquote, but there's still unrest amongst those who are like, no, this is crazy. Look at this fraud. In Brotherhood, yeah, go straight into it, straight up divide, and plans are going a lot faster than they originally intend, but that's okay. We could still work with it. So, again, like you said, with melodramatic fits more with the 2003 version than it does with Brotherhood. And another difference I enjoyed in 2003 was Barry the Chopper. Now, the brothers meet Barry when he was human. Yes, he was a butcher, and he tells his story
Yes,
like in the manga
Barry
and
Chopper is
Brotherhood.
the serial
It doesn't
killer.
really they never meet him in his human form. They meet him as pretty much like Al when they went to Laboratory 5. And in Brotherhood and in the manga, Barry talks about himself like, "Oh, I was this butcher who liked cutting meat and but I wasn't satisfied and decided to go out and kill people and chop up people." hmm
Yeah, it was a in Brotherhood. It was a about half, not even half, but a good 2 3 minute
Right. And
story
Barry
exposition because
goes,
he was in a battle with
"Yeah,
Alphonse, and it
so
was
I was
just
like the most
two
well-known
metal men
in
relating
all
to each
of
other.
Central, blah blah blah." And Alphonse was like, "I'm sorry, I never heard of you ever." Right. Just like, "Who? I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." And Barry's like, "What? What?
No,
What do
they
you
no,
mean?"
literally just says
But
who.
I appreciated what 2003 did by having them encounter this lunatic because they showed such fear from Edward when Winry was kidnapped. Winry, yeah, she was kidnapped first, then Ed, and they had to fight for their lives to get away from Barry. For me, it again melodramatic, but it drew you in and kept you with the show. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. I think, because considering when it was released, personally, it was very compelling storytelling. Even though it was a bit of a filler, it was a filler, but hmm but it still worked though.
It
It
was
still
a no,
worked.
it was a straight filler. Like, and Dave talked about how that was just a filler episode. Like they had,
hmm
and that's the thing when you come with another key difference, and not a difference that again makes one better than the other.
Exactly.
For what they were working with FMA, that filler episode works and it establishes a lot of stuff in the world. But when you get to Brotherhood, they change some things around where the world is so established you don't need that. And it also adds into very
Mm-hmm.
cool dialogue moments when Barry is talking about himself like, shouldn't you already know me? Which is also a throwback to FMA. You should already know me. But you don't, of course, because in this version, they don't meet him. His stuff is already finished and done. And it's those like differences that makes for so both compelling both ways, but still enjoyable experiences. And I love that. I definitely do appreciate that version of Brotherhood more because even though Barry does come is involved throughout the series, he's not a character I need a whole episode about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, him just talking about himself or him dropping hints about his life in dialogue or doing a couple of action scenes is
Mm-hmm.
enough. And but watching it in FMA, even though like I said, it's still enjoyable, it doesn't take away from anything. It's like,
Right, of course.
yeah, this is filler.
Um,
We didn't really need
but
to do
again,
this
with
because
Brotherhood,
it didn't take
the
away
reason
from
why,
anything, but it was just
just
you
the
can
big
feel
reason
the
why with
filler in it.
manga and Brotherhood that they didn't really expand too much on it was because it was such a big story. They didn't have. I personally, it's like, well, he's just one character. He's in and out. You don't encounter him very much. He's not that important to have a filler episode on. So, like I said, certain characters had more spotlight in the original. Well, not the original, in the first series
Hmm.
than in Brotherhood. She does. She
Yeah,
really does.
like we mentioned
Also,
before, the
like,
mom definitely gets a little
again, they
more
did
love in
stay true
FMA
to the
than she does
character
in
of Wade
Brotherhood.
Hughes. Like, he will forever be in my heart. I'm just. At first, I was mad. Like, when, again, spoiler, when he was killed off. But it was done in a way that made the plot continue forward. Like, it showed you. Yeah, exactly. But it also showed you that, in times like those, you're dealing with very,
Hmm.
very
Moved
dangerous
everything along.
situations, very dangerous information. People will die. Comrades will fall in an effort to make the country better, in an effort to avoid what is happening
Yes.
again. Because hundreds, centuries ago, actually, in order to create the Philosopher's Stone, thousands of lives had to be sacrificed. Thousands. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Philosopher's Stone is a
But
super
the way to
powerful
get it,
object in this
as the
world
boys find
and an
out,
object that
by
is
Dr.
most coveted by
Marco,
all
who
alchemists.
was a doctor or an alchemist who was in the Ishval War 13 years prior to the start of the story. So you learn so much in both about the journey to getting the Philosopher's Stone, who's interacted with it before, why people want it, why people run away from it, why it's just this all powerful thing that has so much mystery to it, before the brothers figure out what they can do, finding the truth within the truth, um, putting together what plot is being put together because like you look at certain massacres that happen, you look
Mhm.
at the Ishval War, the Civil War. And how did that Civil War start? Shh, 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 shh.
One of our background villain, well, at the beginning of the series, background
Right.
villains is in Account of Immortal, and they went back and they started some real bad ish. They killed a child. How most wars, if you actually go look
Right.
at it, start off like that.
And you don't
Some
realize that
innocent
it's
is killed,
one of the
misunderstandings,
quote
and
unquote
suddenly
bad characters.
thousands upon
You
thousands
just
have to
hear
die.
the story of, oh yeah, a soldier accidentally shot a child and people rioted. Yeah, a soldier messed up. People rioted, people were angry because there were already tensions between the two, between the soldiers
Soldier
and
messed
the
up.
people of Ishval.
Yeah.
So,
Which is something I'm glad that both animes strive for. They display cultures and they show like, yeah, even though, no one wants to
hmm
be at each
exactly.
other's throat, but there are differences in cultures, and if you're not willing to respect those differences, bad stuff is going to happen. It's
Exactly. They
guaranteed to
really
happen.
do.
And those
And
again, subtle,
The
story
struggle
points which
for
carry
these
over
Volans
well
to
in
survive, you
both
still see
series.
them peppered around the story throughout the series. You know, again, going back to how the war started, when you find out how it actually happened, why it actually happened, you realize, because throughout the series you look at the homunculus, how they talk to each other about humans, how they're always saying like, oh, humans are stupid, they're just so sensitive and just weak, you know, anything can set them off, anything. Thus the war, thus the child being shot, thus people being angry over this, because they fed off the tension that was between the soldiers and the people of Ishval. And they use that to their leverage because, as you will later find out, Ishval was one of the first to be used in the bigger overarching plot. Lior, I believe, was next, and they were successful. Well, what do you mean the first modern ones?
They're the first modern ones.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back, there's a scene in the show where they talk about the history of the country when it's being established. Those slaughters to build
Yes. Well,
the
after the
transmutation
first
circle have
time the
been
entire
starting since
country
the
was
country
wiped
started.
out, or the very, very first time? No, what? No, no, no. I know. Oh no,
No,
no, no, no. I know. That was centuries ago. That was
if
when
I'm not mistaken,
Hohenheim
they hint that they've done
interacted
that
with that
before. That's
the
why they're
first
always in
homunculus,
conflict.
that little thing in the flask. Amethyst?
No, that was the Xerxes thing. No, I'm talking about for I can't remember the name of the country
Ah,
now.
okay. Oh no, no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yes, for that country, it's been going on since the beginning of that country. Yeah, like right. They go back and say no, there have been slaughters and
Pretty
just
much.
weird things. Like again, another great story point: how history affects everything if you ignore it. Like when you're not paying attention to stuff, it leads down a deadly road, especially when things keep repeating themselves. Because one of the side characters, one of my favorite side characters, is a history buff, and he know off the bat the history of the country, and when you start to put together, like, well, when did this happen? Well, when did this riot happen? Well, when did this slaughter happen? And it
Mm-hmm.
all connects even to the modern day
Yes.
stuff of the Ishvalan Civil War, and of course the riots
Mm-hmm.
and destruction of Lior. And it's again those beautiful points that they weave in and out the story that are always there about history and what is loyalty to state and what are the things we do because someone says this is what we need to do, but what the real purpose is are all our
That's
beautiful story points
absolutely
in the
true.
manga,
And the way it's
FMA,
been done,
and
it's
Brotherhood,
carefully
which
crafted.
doesn't
And I
detract no
have to
matter
give,
how you tell that
you
story
know,
in either
I have to
way.
give the creator so much props for just going through the grueling process of
Mm.
just weaving such a complicated story. Her name is Hiromu Arakawa, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and like I have to give her props. Like her and her team, man, they did so much with a lot,
Hmm.
a lot of flaws. I mean, what thing does not have flaws? But,
Yes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Right, especially something that's being made as it grows in
yeah,
popularity and
pretty
there are
much.
themes and stuff.
You know, and the
And
fun and
as she, as a
enjoyable thing
writer, has
about it
said
is
that,
that
yo,
she
I
has
knew
such
where
a
I
sense of
wanted to go.
humor too,
I
and
was,
it
so
translated
stuff
very well onto
happens.
the pages and onto the screen. Like, for instance, Edward's height. It's a very sore spot for that kid. That kid, Edward Elric, is the
Hmm.
definition of petty.
Yes,
He invented petty.
yes, yes. And the beauty of it all, and again, something that you
Mm-hmm.
don't think about while
There
you're watching the show
is.
is okay, that's just his
Oh,
character
I was
quirk. But as the show
Yes.
goes on,
Yes. Oh
there's a
my god,
reason
and it
for it.
threw me for a loop
There's
when
a
the first time
legit
I learned
reason
about it.
for
I was just like, wait,
it. And you're
what?
like,
And
oh
I know that
wow.
even when Edward found out, he was like, wait a minute,
Like,
I'm supposed to be right.
mhm,
He's like, right. He's like, wait, I'm short because of this. Oh my
yes.
god, like, I'll say this, y'all. He was eating for
Is that
two.
possible? Is that actually
He
possible?
was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was eaten for two, and that is expressed in both versions of the anime. And again, it doesn't the way they're presented, yeah, because it's a little more melodramatic in FM and a little more subtle in just
Mm-hmm.
one of those aha moments in Brotherhood. But they're both presented very well, and you when
Yep.
you see it, you're like,
Like, why
God
didn't we
dang it,
figure it
why
out
didn't we think of
before?
that?
But
Even
me, I'm just like sitting there like
caught in the
watching it,
moment
like,
with
wait,
the
I
character,
remember
like,
this.
why
Oh my
didn't
god, I
we
remember
think of
this.
that
Like, there's
too?
certain stuff I'm remembering way before it even happens, and I'm like,
Hmm.
this is gonna be even more fun to watch. That's the beauty of being a longtime fan of this stuff. Like, I had the books, I had the mangas,
Hmm.
volumes. I watched every episode. My friends and I freaked out about it, and I was in high school when that stuff was like going strong. We were all about it, and we loved it. And
Hmm.
again, despite how strange the 2003 version was, it was still very compelling. It still had a lot. It still brought you into this world that you did not think was possible, and it took place in the past too, like the 20th
Yes.
century, the beginning of the 20th century, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yes. Hmm. So it's, let me see, like,
Hmm. Industrialism and
oh,
everything
ooh, ooh,
popping off. Yeah.
another one of my favorite things though were how the homunculus came about. Huge differences. Huge differences. Hmm? Yep.
Yes. And huge different characters who they represent.
Yep.
The homunculus are based off the
Hmm.
seven deadly sins, and FMA, as it like again, it was being made while the manga was still being written, it wasn't finished. They changed some stuff around, which is they did what they could, and it was very inventive for the time. In Brotherhood, it
Hmm.
sticks more to the manga, and still it's well crafted, and you
Exactly. So
understand why certain
you look at
characters
certain
turn out to be
characters.
the
Let's
seven
say
deadly sins
Izumi
or
Curtis.
representations. I'm sorry,
She was the teacher
representations of the
of
seven deadly
Edward
sins.
and Alphonse, and she was supported by her giant bear of a husband, Sig, and she was very, very, very rough. But they learned so much from
Yes.
her, and you find out later on why she's always
Hmm.
throwing up blood, why she's constantly sick, and you figured out that she did the taboo. She, yeah, she attempted to bring back, like her
Hmm.
and her husband tried for so long to have kids, and when they did, she became
She
very, very
also,
sick,
yeah.
and their firstborn was a stillborn. Like it wasn't even alive when it came out. And, she was so devastated, like she was desperate, and she committed the ultimate sin, which, ooh,
Right.
interestingly, like the sin, seven deadly sins. Hey, um, she tried to bring back her child. Of course, she saw the truth, which is why Edward and Izumi were able to transmute without drawing the circle, because they are the circle, because they saw the truth. Yes, they saw everything. And in the 2003
Yes.
version,
Because they've been
her
through the portal.
the
Hmm.
and the thing, when you do human transmutation, you come back barely alive, you lose something of importance on your body, but you also come back with a thing, like this weird thing struggling to breathe. You don't even know if it's human. It's not. It's an homunculus.
Hmm.
And in the 2003 version, that homunculus was Wrath. This little kid she put off on, like,
Hmm.
to an island that grew up and was,
Yes.
the embodiment of his name. When he met Edward and Alphonse, he did everything he can to destroy those two because he was angry that his mother didn't give him the attention that she gave Edward and Alphonse. You have Lust. Oh my goodness, Lust. In the 2003 version, she was conceived by Scar's brother.
Yes.
That's how she came about, because she was the lost, yeah, she was a girlfriend or a fiance, if I'm not mistaken, of Scar's brother, and he tried to bring her back. And of course, for an Ishvalan though, that was a taboo as well, because I believe Ishvalans don't practice alchemy. If I'm Yeah, it's like a
Hmm.
taboo or something.
They do not practice alchemy. Right. And that's again another story change from FMA to
Hmm.
Brotherhood. In Brotherhood, the homunculus, the seven deadly sins, are more connected to the overall giant plot of the story. There
Mhm.
aren't direct personal connections, even though they do have personal interactions with our characters. They come from the
Mhm.
world. What's wrong with the world? But in FMA, they come from the actual sins that the people commit, and it gives them a more direct connection. But again, two different ways of telling the same story, and they both have incredible impact because when you realize who they
Mhm.
are in
Oh yeah,
Brotherhood
there are
and
plenty
how
that have been
long they've been
around for
active, the things that
the
they've done,
dawn of
it's like,
time. You
Jeebus
have an
Christ, you've been here
interesting.
this whole time.
No. Yeah.
Not that they've been around just since the beginning of this nation, because that is something that's
Mhm.
again another beautiful thing they do, and is show how nothing's just born from nothing. All these
Right.
things are consequences of other actions from others, and they connect the dots as the series goes through.
Mhm.
Like you see even though this is my gripe with but with all three versions, manga, FMA, and Brotherhood. Even though they don't give us too much
Mhm.
detailed about the world building. They give us the world itself, which is how you would get it anyway when you grow up and learn. But they don't give us
Right.
all the interactive details about how alchemy was started and created. But they do show how it has
Mhm.
influenced and moved throughout the world, which I think is super cool. But again, you still want more details. Like, I want, well, who's the first person to draw a circle? How did they figure out how to do this? Because but the world building is
Exactly.
still so
And
well
then.
done that
Mhm.
you don't
Go
notice
on.
how much you missed that because you're in it and still figuring out stuff like some of the characters are, like the brothers. hmm No, I was saying like you're figuring out like the brothers are. You're figuring out just like them, and but in your
No.
and they know too. They like you
Exactly.
mentioned, they've been reading
There's a
since they were
difference
little
between
kids.
reading something
They've
and
been studying all
experiencing.
this stuff. Yet there's still
And
things they just don't know, like any kid
like
would growing
you
up.
have another note I remember about the 2003
hmm
version with the homunculus is that a lot of them took on the faces of the people they were trying to bring back. You have Lust, again the girlfriend. You had Edward and Alphonse. Well, Edward, they brought back a homunculus too, named Sloth,
hmm
and she took on the face of their mother. And Izumi, her child, um, though
hmm
Envy,
hmm
again to spoil it,
hmm
was a love child. He was the result of an affair between Hohenheim and a character named Dante that we meet much later in the story. Like you keep hearing her name, but you don't really know who she is until later, and then it kind of all unfolds how how she and Hohenheim were together for centuries, jumping bodies, and Hohenheim left her to go on his own. And I believe like later on he meets Trisha, Edward and Alphonse's mom. Mm-mm,
And a lot of that
it
stuff is
doesn't.
cut out with Brotherhood, and it doesn't
It
change the
does.
effect of how the homunculi are made. And
Hmm.
it does tighten
And
up this
like the
show a little
differences
bit
with
more.
it is that
It's a little extra
also
background stuff that not really
Arakawa,
necessary and doesn't take
she
away from any
again
of the
wanted a
characters'
different ending for
motivations.
the first series because again she didn't want it to match the manga at the time. It wasn't complete. She just didn't want that. So that's why you have the character Dante. Dante doesn't exist in Brotherhood. She doesn't exist in the manga, but they still made it work. They still brought her in some way. Somehow you still had the seven deadly sins. You still had greed. Interestingly enough, he was
hmm
defeated the same way Edward faced off against him in Brotherhood. If you can recall that, because towards one of the later episodes, he faces off against greed in an abandoned mansion, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and in FMA, they face
hmm
off,
Their
and
their little
Edward
safe
figures
house
out
they were when they were running away from the
how
government.
because if you think about it too, Arakawa gave the writers of the show a lot of things that were going on in the manga with certain characters, so they still incorporated very much, different elements of the manga, even though it didn't tell the manga story. Um, so Greed was defeated.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, he was defeated by Edward figuring out
yeah.
the composition of his body because he boasted that he was an impenetrable, sorry, shield, and he can cover himself hard as diamond, virtually impossible to defeat. Exactly. And Edward's like, huh,
Yeah,
if
he had
that's
a.
the case, he just pretty much
His,
figured out that it was carbon. It was straight up carbon.
it was his little
You
special
know,
power. Yeah.
like impenetrable like a diamond. Diamond is like highly compressed carbon. So,
Mm-hmm.
hmm exactly. And he also figured out that the human body is made up of,
Mm-hmm.
what was it,
Again,
75%
he used science.
carbon
He
or
used
20 something, a high
minerals,
percentage
figuring out
carbon.
what breaks down
So,
what. Excuse me.
yeah. It's so many numbers. It's like, you know what? I'm not good with math. Shut up.
I
And
legit. They say they form. They say that formula like 4 or 5 times for the human body, and
right.
I forget
And
every time. Like,
so
okay.
he, every time Edward gets close enough, he
Yeah,
claps
I'm
his
just
hand
gonna let that.
together
No, I'm good
and
with it. I just let it
regenerates
go.
the shield and is able to get a hit. And he manages to stab Greed and kill him. Whereas in Brotherhood, he just manages to slow him down because Greed goes out in a different way. Yes, he does.
And greed has a prominent
hmm
role later on in the series. Again, it's something else that they didn't. Again, they didn't really. If they had that for FMA, they didn't
Yep.
know it, or they
Yes,
just
she
chose
was.
to go a
Yeah, she
different
did.
route. Because once again, they were making their own thing, which they had permission from the original manga artist and writer. She was both, right? Yeah, she did both. They had permission from her to make those changes. Like, you go ahead because I still got to do my thing. So I think that's just a beautiful collaborative effort. They're like, yeah, she understood that they were gonna get ahead, and she didn't hold anything against them. Like, no, make your story, and I'll finish mine.
It
And
doesn't. It
that's the
really
beauty
doesn't. So
about this
they
genre.
they were very
You can
clever
do
with
that
the
those type of
storytelling.
things, and it
Again,
doesn't detract
with
away from
Brotherhood,
the story
a
that you want
lot
to
of
tell.
the characters, well, the homunculus, anyways, some of them are different. You still have envy, you still have lust, you still have gluttony, like all seven, but like you still had the big. Well, I call them the big three because they're the ones you see the most. You have Fuhrer Bradley,
Yeah, you still have the seven, all
who
7. Mm-hmm.
was pride. No, wrath. Wrath. He was wrath. No, he was wrath. Yes, you're right. And Sloth, though, was this giant
Wrath.
ball of a being just
He's wrath.
digging. And you're like, why is he digging? What's his origin story? No one knows where he came from. All they know is that he's very old and very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. And it's been doing it for the entirety of the existence of the nation. Again, building on that things happen, and there's no
very.
reason.
And
You just
when
have
you
to
pay
look
attention to
for it.
these
You have to be
details,
observant,
when you
which is
first
again
encounter
a
them,
very great
especially in Brotherhood
characteristic
and
of
the
both
manga,
brothers.
you're like,
They're
wait,
super
why is he
observant.
doing that? Why is she doing that? And then later on, it all comes together, like the face off against the one person, not person, being, father,
Mm-hmm.
was the homunculus, if I'm not, yes, was the first homunculus, the homunculus in the flask. And father takes on the face of Hohenheim, the slave. And
Mm-hmm.
hmm and
Because
the
he used
interesting
his
thing
body
about it is
as
when they're
what he
facing
say?
off
He
against
used his
him, they're
body as
in
a
that
template.
weird
Thank you for letting me
layer,
use you to build something.
and while they're facing off, you see Sloth like punch through a hole, and you're like, wait, what? All the way from up north? Wait, what's going on? And then you realize the entire city, or not the entire city, the entire nation is a huge
Mhm.
transmutation circle. It is all connected.
The entire country,
And it
yes.
all comes back. It all comes back. And
That's
the
all
most beautiful
connected.
thing about it
Again,
is
a beautiful theme of the
just
show.
how
Everything's
everything comes
connected.
to a close. Like how the the seven deadly sins, the homunculus, were defeated. Fittingly, like Dante's Inferno. Um, or in the Bible. Was it in the Bible? I'm not sure. It was how, like, anybody who practiced, like, greed or gluttony, I don't remember which one, you would be, like, boiled in a vat of oil. You would also, no, 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 but like for specific sins. No, but for the specific sins, though, they have a specific punishment.
Everybody gets
And
come up
they
in the
did that
Bible in terrible,
for
horrible ways.
some of the
So,
sins, if I'm not mistaken. Like greed, he he was killed, like dipped in a vat of oil, like repeatedly. Because the thing is, you have to kill them a certain number of times in order for them to kill him dead. Technically.
yeah,
hmm And
yeah,
and the thing is, each of them had, I'm not sure,
right.
I
Because
think it
again, they
was
are
in the
technically immortal
2003 version
beings.
only. I
So to
don't
get
remember
rid of
if
immortal
it
beings, you
was
got
in
to
the
keep
number
killing them.
two. Each of them had their own individual Philosopher's Stone to keep them alive. hmm And I found it interesting how, like, Roy,
Yes, they
how
do.
he defeated
Yep,
lust,
everybody had one.
how envy was defeated. Like, in so many ways, with every hit, he would, he'd transform into what he called his final form, which is this giant, weird, like, dragon monster chimera thing. Was it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was
Like
like
a dog.
this huge thing.
It
Yeah.
was like a patting dog, a
But it was like
panting
this
dog, not
huge
patting,
thing,
panting.
but,
You
he
know,
still
like a dog sitting
managed to
tongue out.
be cut
Yeah,
down
which
to
is a
his
beautiful symbol for
true,
envy, by the way.
absolute final form, which is this tiny little shrimp of a thing, this little green, ugly thing. Yes. And it was so fitting. Like, when I saw him in that form, a part of me was like, I
Green
knew
thing,
it. Oh, I
green
knew
with
it. Little
jealousy and
ugly,
envy.
nasty little thing. Ugh. Yes. So he takes on any form. Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
Because in both series, envy is
Yes.
a shapeshifter. Right? That's his special power. He's a shapeshifter. They all have little special powers. And his was shapeshift. Um, and that's again another thing that is carried over well in both shows is the representation of the homunculi as the seven deadly sins.
Mm-hmm.
They embody those sins no matter how their origins are, but in both shows,
And this is what
they
the
are like, no, this is
manifestation
what
of pride, which
manifestation
was
of
a
lust would look like.
child,
This is what the
if I'm not
manifestation of envy would look like. This is what the manifestation of greed would look like in the world.
from.
No, no, no. No, no, no. Remember, the first manifestation of pride is just a little
Oh,
black
yes,
hole.
yes, 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 yes. Oh my God. Ooh, I can't believe I forgot that.
He, the
Black.
homunculus in the glass.
It is genius. Ooh, it's very well done.
Pride, yes, pride
Oh,
is a
very well done.
little
See, that's the magic and
black
the beauty of
hole.
Fullmetal
And I
Alchemist.
saw that, I'm like,
Mythos.
that is
Not the first
genius.
show, not the second show, the whole series. Which we're emphasizing. You guys are questioning why we're emphasizing this because there
Yes,
is no war between the two.
yes, the whole thing. I don't like this. I think the purpose of this, like I said, any anime podcast is to get their stripes by talking about this
hmm
series, these series, and I believe that people are having their own
hmm
conversation. You can find value in both of them, and it's your personal taste
hmm
which dictates which one you like more, which one you will watch repeatedly. Like for me, I'm a little bit more on the, like I said, subtle drama. I'm gonna like Brotherhood more. Some people may enjoy the melodrama. They're gonna like FMA more. Some people just might want a little bit more extra characterization
hmm
and side characters.
Yep.
They're gonna go to FMA. Some people might just want to get the overall world connection a little faster, a little quicker. Brotherhood. All things
Of
are
course.
don't
hmm
detract from the other. They're
Still read
all
it. Oh
worthwhile.
yeah, still
At
read
the
it.
end of the day,
And
then you should,
the
no
fun
matter
thing
which
is
one you
about
like
the
more,
show,
still read
about
the
both
manga.
actually, is
I mean, it doesn't
how we
matter.
mentioned
Still
much
read the
earlier
manga.
how, Edward and Alphonse are still kids. You know, they interact with so many adult situations, but the way they react to it, they're children. They come across Nina and her situation with pure shock and just grief. And of course they're yelled at like, yo, this is this is
Yes.
the reality of the world here. Especially you're a dog in the military, you're gonna come across way worse than this. From Roy.
Yes.
Roy Mustang told them that. And they also learn for themselves that they gotta be there for each other no matter what. In any situation, Ed
Hmm.
tries to make Al save his own neck, and Alphonse is like, no, you're stupid, brother. I will help you and stand behind you, even if I have to die in the process. We are here for each other. This, that, and the other.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
And that's one thing I'm gonna say that is definitely told
Mhm.
better to me in Brotherhood though, because again, subtle drama.
Yes.
It was
I think it's
so
well.
it's just overdone a little bit in FMA, but the subtlety of it
Yeah.
in Brotherhood, you feel Ed's depression. And he doesn't have to scream it to you. No, he kind of screams it to you in FMA.
Mhm.
In Brotherhood, you just feel it. You don't have to say anything. You
Yeah.
can feel it and the way people react, and definitely how Ed talks to him. I mean, how Alphonse talks to Ed. But in FMA, it's kind of screamed at for 3 episodes how he's feeling about stuff, and it's like, that to me is definitely that's one thing I can
Mhm.
say is done a little bit better in Brotherhood. The expression of more subtleties with
Mhm.
feelings. You get their depression, even their happiness. Some you're not always overtly happy. You're not always screaming, shouting, and laughing out loud. Sometimes it's just a smile, or
Mhm.
sometimes
Oh
it's
yeah,
just you
definitely.
turning
And
away
there's
like that
also
was cool, and I'm not gonna
the
say
biggest
anything
thing I'm
about it.
always
That's
most
that's
impressed
that's
about
definitely for
is the
me
concept of
better handled in
loyalty,
Brotherhood and FMA.
especially with Roy's team. From oh man, I always I like my heart was always like just
Mm-hmm.
rooting so much for his team, and they're such badasses.
Yes.
Like, okay, you take Lieutenant Hawkeye, First Lieutenant Hawkeye has been with Roy since the beginning because her father was Roy's teacher in Flame Alchemy, and she had or has kind of the formula of flame
Mm-hmm.
alchemy on her back, tattooed on her back by her father, which was why she was basically raised, not raised per se, but put next to Roy to watch over him, to protect him. So he does to abuse it, but then, as she got older, she just grew attached to him. And she does everything she can to protect him because,
Oh, he doesn't
certain
abuse it. Yeah,
days,
not
like
to
when it
pretend he doesn't
rains,
abuse it.
he's useless. But oh,
Mm-hmm.
but um, the beauty of it though, when he faces off against Lust, his
He's
uselessness,
useless.
he thinks very quickly on his feet because while his gloves were out of commission because of her, he still manages to carve the symbol on the back of his hand and still incinerate her. Exactly. So she thought like, oh, without your glove, you're useless now. And he's like,
Mhm.
nope, think again. And he just
Yes, the
annihilates her.
symbols that are used to
But
perform
yeah, the
alchemy.
loyalty of the team. First, you have First Lieutenant Hawkeye. You have Vato Falman, who was a great informant. Sorry. You had Gene Havoc, who was a specialist with, I think, weapons. Next to Hawkeye, he was actually pretty good with weapons. You had um, Braden. Shoot. Sorry. Give me a
Hmm.
second. I'm getting like excited. Let me calm down.
Hmm. A quick side note
War
while you're
two.
doing
Yep.
that is the Arthur named all of Hawkeye, I mean, all of Mustang and his crew, named them after vehicles from World War II. When
Yes.
I heard that, oh,
Yes.
shout out to
Oh,
Channel
she's.
Federators 107
Oh
Facts for
man, she
that
took
great
care of her
YouTube
research.
channel. Go
Trust
go
me. She
subscribe.
made sure.
When I read that,
Oh,
when
I
they told
loved
me
it.
that
When I
fact,
first
I'm
found
like,
out
oh,
that,
that
I
was
was like, this is
genius. I
beautiful.
thought that was
Even
the
though
coolest thing
King
in the
Fury,
world.
who was the radio specialist,
Yes,
like
it was
in
great.
relaying messages, for me, he reminded me of a character from Mash. Very similar
Hmm.
character. Yeah, radio. Radar. There. Yeah, yeah. Immediately, like when I looked at him, I'm like, I feel like this is a
He
recent
was on
episode of MASH,
radio.
like that I saw, and I was
Radar.
like,
I was well, radio.
well,
He was
it fits.
radar.
And
Yeah.
so, Mhm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and even other
Which does,
officers
because you have
outside
their
of that circle
camaraderie,
though.
the way they
And I
were
think
forged in battle. They
the
still
most
have sense of
important thing that
humor.
really
Their loyalty
motivated
to each other
Roy
definitely
Mustang
match.
was the death of his best friend, Maze Hughes. And
Hmm.
for me though, in both to the 2003 version and the Brotherhood, nailed it
Hmm.
completely because it's still like like frame by frame, it took it exactly from the manga in both, and it wasn't too
Hmm.
dramatic in either one of them. Well, no, maybe except for the music in 2003. No, no, no. In 2003, it was like literally the only difference was to make it a little more dramatic
Hmm.
was the music, but that's it.
No. Yeah, well,
Right. But other than that, it was literally the same. And that's what blew. That was one of the
yeah, that's
things
what I'm
that
saying.
absolutely
That you
blew
let
me
that go because that's
because
just film
you
and
look
animation
at
anyway.
how
The music is what hits
Maze
you
is going. He's just looking at this
sometimes.
map. He's figuring it out, and he's like, "Oh my god, this." He's the first to figure it out. But of course, he comes across Lust. She tries to stop him, and he no, no, it's
Yes,
both Lust in first at first when he goes to look for the map because he was
it's
looking at a
envy
newspaper
in
with
the Brotherhood.
a with a soldier, and there he was looking at different articles of the massacres that have been happening across the country for like decades, or not even decades, like the past couple of weeks. And he's like, "What's going on? Like, what's going on with all of this?" And then he realizes where these places are taking place. He goes to another part of the building, to the library, and he looks at a map, and that's where he encounters Lust, who tries to stop him with her long nails. And he stops her with because he does knife throwing. That's a specialty. He throws daggers, and in both, he encounters her. He's injured. He travels down the hallway. The secretary there is like, "Oh my God, sir, what's going on?" He's like, "Just don't worry about it. I need to contact somebody really important." He stops himself and goes, "These are private lines. Anybody can listen because you can't trust anybody. The military lines." Right. And he knew that if he used the military line, anybody could be listening in because he figured out that
Well,
there
they're
was
the military
somebody
lines. Everybody's listening to
inside
them. Those were the military lines.
in charge of all of this, orchestrating all of it. So he goes outside to a public telephone, and just it's like it was a time waster for on two parts.
Orchestrating all of
One,
this.
he
Yeah.
had to give his code in order to be like, yeah, this is me. I need to talk to Roy Mustang. And another time waster was when it was that was when he encountered Envy as Lieutenant. No, yeah, was it as Maria Ross? Maria Officer Maria. Yeah, like he
Yeah,
was
he
first
starts.
Maria Ross,
He
and
starts off as an
he was just
right, an
like, yeah,
officer,
I'm
and
not
then
falling for that.
envy
She has
transforms.
a
That's when
mole
you
in her
realize
eye.
envy's.
And I'm like, dude, you have an eye for detail. Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yep.
again, Mustang.
And it's always the
I mean,
super observant ones
Hog.
that
He
figure it out
was
so
Hughes
quickly.
was
And I'm
so
like,
observant. A
me.
characteristic that comes in
But
handy to the
then
heroes.
of course
He's
Envy
super observant. That's why he's
transforms
the
into
first
his
one to figure
wife, and I'm
everything out.
just like, like, on the one hand, I understood why he hesitated because he loves his family to death. Like he will give up his life for them, especially his little girl. He would not shut
Hmm.
up about. Um, but on the other hand, it's like, dude, you saw him transform right before your eyes into the face of your wife. Like, yes, you will never hurt her, but it's like you know that's not her, and it was that hesitation that was his death.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it
And
is.
again,
It
that's
really
also
is.
well
And
portrayed
it's
in both
another
series.
tragedy. Like you have
And his establishing
another
for
like I
his
noticed like another kid
abundant
whose
love
parent
of
was
his
taken away from
family
her.
is established well in both series
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
because of this. Yeah. Which is again another
And
theme that runs
consequences
through
too.
lost children,
Consequences is a very
abandoned
powerful thing,
children, and
especially
how they have to figure this stuff
with
out,
the whole
which
Lior
again is
thing.
a
I
super real
think in
world
the
thing.
2003 version, it
Like
comes
children,
right back and bites Edward
yeah,
in the butt. because he feels like,
Yes.
I mean, on the one hand, it was supposed to happen anyways,
Hmm.
but in a way, it worked out in the homunculus' favor,
Yeah.
and he was told like, you did this. If you weren't careful about people who were blind followers or like oblivious followers, if you were more careful about it, it would have gone a lot differently. Maybe. But still, he just went in kicking, screaming, like, hey, fake! And then riots.
And in
Oh, yeah.
Brotherhood, they show him being more
Mm-hmm.
calculated. They show the circumstance, and they show how it is almost inevitable, which helps out the villain's point of view in the story, that this was going to happen, which is also really cool. You figure out,
Mm-hmm.
like, no matter what they did, even if
Exactly.
they had
And then
stayed
in
there, no matter
both, it
there,
actually, yeah,
the
in both,
world, the
it did came full circle
circumstances, because
because
other people weren't
while in
paying attention,
Brotherhood,
was still going to lead to the violence, was
both
still going to
both
lead to the
used the
massacre.
concept of immortal life and using all the citizens of the country to create another philosopher's stone to elongate the life of the person orchestrating all of
Mhm.
this destruction, all of these plans. And you have in the 2003 version, you had Dante, who just wanted to live because the body she was in was deteriorating, and she wanted another philosopher's stone to switch bodies with, which I think she did successfully. I'm not sure. And well, briefly. And in Brotherhood, you had
Mhm.
Father, who wanted to demolish the entire country for a philosopher's stone so he can continue to live. Him and Hohenheim, and it's always with Hohenheim too. If you noticed, Hohenheim always had such a huge part in that. Like they both wanted him by their side
He wanted to become
to continue
God.
on living, and he would have none of that. Hmm. Mm,
Wait. I don't. No, I don't think
yeah.
Father wanted Hohenheim by his side. I think he just wanted him out of the way.
Uh,
Father needed him as a sacrifice and wanted him out of the way because he basically knew everything. He didn't really want him there. He's like, I just need you for the sacrifice. Then I need you to go because
he said
even
that,
when
but at the
he
same time, he was also saying like, we can
with the
still
creation of
rule
Father, he's
if you
like,
want
I just
to.
want to thank you. So I'm just gonna give you this immortal body,
It
but
was
you
it
can go
to
now.
in a way it was in a way.
I
I'm
think
still on the fence
I
about
think
that.
that was a tactic.
Eh,
I
because
think that was just a tactic to throw them off to yeah, I don't think he really wanted them around at all. Like, do you get on my nerves? I mean, again, I think that's the another difference between the both shows.
no,
FMA,
you don't. But I think
you
it's
get
just
that.
more
I
interpretation.
want
I
you
think it's
here,
just
so
more
you think
interpretation
that's just
because yeah,
more.
you had
But when you watch Brotherhood, it's like people are saying shit. I don't believe not one word, and that they'll keep that up. No, because he kicks him out twice. He wants to get rid of him twice in the show. He says it, and then in the last ditch effort, so he
mm-hmm,
doesn't mess up his plans. Join
true.
me. Like that's what you do in a
That
situation
is
where
true.
somebody can mess you up.
But,
Hey, let me see if they'll
but
join me
either
before they
way,
mess me up. I really don't want
it
you around
didn't.
right
Well,
now.
again, it did involve like elements from the manga, although used differently, was still put into the 2003 version as much as it was incorporated fully blown in Brotherhood. So I just find just extremely clever writing.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yes, another contention. I don't know why. The dialogue of FMA is good for its time and good for what they were working with. When you get to Brotherhood, of course, it should be a little bit better. Glad it is because they have both the manga completed and FMA to work off of. So there should be improvement when you have more stuff to work
Mm-hmm.
off of. You can't say FMA sucks because that dialogue, that's what they were working with. And even for that time, what, 2003, that was really good. Like again, these the All these
Mm-hmm.
points of
Oh,
debate are
that's true.
actually should be the opposite thing.
Sometimes you can't.
These are things you should be happy
But
that you had two
it's
good
all up
shows
for,
with really good dialogue. Because sometimes you can't get
interpretation
one.
or not. Differences and similarities. It's all there. Just watch it. Please enjoy it. And it's you can find it on Netflix. I was about to say. Yeah, it's all on Netflix. Both are on there. There's also the
You can
manga.
find.
You can find
I'm
it
sorry, but
online. I don't know who buys manga anymore, but
yeah,
if you want the
no.
copies in your hand, you can go to the bookstore. You can go to, I think, Barnes and Nobles. I think it still
Hmm.
has it.
Yes.
I think, or you can order it. Yeah. So just consume it because there's so much more we could talk about. But
You can order it if
we
they
do have
don't
day
have it in
jobs,
store. Hmm.
and we can go a whole other hour. We can, but I think we can. But I think that it's up to you guys to continue the conversation for now, at least. We can always come back to it. We can always talk about the movies, the side stuff,
Yes, we
or
can.
just talk about a specific topic in the FMA world. And in the meantime, join the initiative. Contact us, interact with us on all of our social media: Facebook, Afro_AI or Afro Anime Initiative, on our YouTube where we post our lovely voices, Afro_AI, and on Instagram, Afro Anime Initiative. I am Paulina Guerriere. Thanks, bye.